Benny, walk us through how we think this U.S. team will look, because they'll be looking a little bit different in this lineup.
Well, very different than the lineup from 3 months ago, but very similar to the lineup we just saw yesterday, with the big exception, right? With Balogun out, you got to find a replacement. I think that it's a 90% likelihood that we see Pepi just as the like for like, and everything else stays the same. And if I had to make one little alteration to that, potentially, right? I don't think this happens, but if he decides to go with somebody else, the only guy that I can think of in terms of that he fully trusts, we talk about those 15 players or so, is a Sebastian Berhalter. He's played in a lot of games, a lot of big minutes. I think he trusts him. If you put him in there and you potentially slide McKennie as the false nine, which he's played at Juve, I wouldn't love that, but I could see that being the one other option to just a like-for-like Pepi for Balogun.
But that's 2 changes positionally. When everything has been working so well for this team through 4 games, including individuals, the formation that this team is playing, I think it's a straight swap for Pepi in. The other option, right, if we're digging a little deeper, if we want to in this squad, and historically what could happen, Christian Pulisic could play a false nine. I don't think that's the right move at all. We've seen him do it in the friendly against Portugal. It was only for the first half, but U.S. end up losing 2-0, and I don't think we get the best out of Christian in that position when he is the false nine. He's much better deeper when he can play make a little bit more and set up his teammates. But I like Ricardo Pepi in the front line, and I like what he can do, and it's the trust factor that comes in for Mauricio Pochettino on this move.
While I was watching that game in the bar, real silent yesterday, what I was actually looking at
real silent, just along with your thoughts.
But what I was looking at was how teams shape up against the USA, because I had full confidence they were going to beat Bosnia, but I was watching how teams shape up at the USA and who they use as their trigger points. And what I love about what Poch has done within these lineups, he's been super brave in having players like Pulisic and having McKennie and having Tillman and even Tyler Adams, who are all comfortable on the ball and who can all play on the half turn and want to play progressive passing, especially to feed the big man or the front line as quick as possible. And Balogun has been fantastic in terms of holding it up, knowing when to feed the players in, knowing when to put it around the corner, and utilising his skill set. The only concern I have, and it is not defensively, is when he's on the ball, is Tim Ream. And the only reason why I say that is not because he's not capable, but it's just because I think people are using him as a moment to say, we're going to use that as the press, we're going to use that as the pivot. And what I don't want the US to do is to start thinking they need to go direct all the time and hitting it because there's no option short. They need to be really brave. They need to be brave and still trusting to play between the lines, to trust those players that's going to be in the half turn. So Pochettino's starting 11 will tell me a lot about his mentality and how much he wants to control possession. And the control of possession against Belgium is going to be super important, because when you're playing against those type of teams, you need to show them that you have no fear. You have no fear from a mental perspective that we're as good on the ball as you are. And if they have that aspect, I believe the individuals will shine through. And I'm looking forward to Captain Pulisic having a moment.
Yeah, the U.S. already has that. They're flying with confidence right now, as they should be, Do
you think Belgium is flying with confidence, Benny? As we look at this starting 11, this is a Belgium side that has struggled so far in the World Cup. And yeah, they were able to get through against Senegal yesterday, but it really came down all to those very last minutes for them.
Yeah, well, they got lucky, first of all. And no, I haven't been impressed with them. And it's weird, man. At the end of the game, they win a game in the latest goal ever being scored in World Cup history, 125th minute. And after the game, they hardly celebrated. They were just, okay, high five, we did it, let's go. They did a little, group hug, but I didn't see much emotion.
Their coach wasn't smiling.
I just think that does not bode well for Belgium. And the other thing that I thought was super interesting was they were down 2-0, and their manager subbed out Doku and Buryne. And I thought here, sitting in my comfortable little hotel bed, what is he doing? Is he tapping out? They're taking his 2 best players out. But then, the subs that came in, and I can't remember who. I know Moreira came in, and I thought he had a fantastic game off the bench. And somebody helped me out, the right winger that came inside that actually scored on us, I think, in the friendly. He came in and did really well as well. Those 2 players, I think, might be better off starting than Doku and Buryne. I'm hoping that he keeps the same starting 11, because the team looked much better and much more fluid in the last 20-30 minutes of the game than they did before.
Benny, I want to ask you a question, and I want to make sure I'm clear when I ask you this question. You know, when you see 2 key players like Kevin De Bruyne and Jeremy Doku, who on paper and clearly are the most important players in terms of influential in the final third for them, alongside Lukaku, When you see him take those type of players off, does that spell disharmony in your mind in terms of in the locker room?
Definitely.
Because that doesn't seem like the strike of a manager that has confidence, especially when you're chasing a game.
And I think especially in international soccer. International soccer, you don't have the ability to train players and see what the best chemistry is. You got to take your best players and make them your stars. Doku's your best player right now on this Belgium team. He doesn't look like he's there. Mentally, he doesn't look there. Emotionally, he doesn't look there. And physically, he looks different than the player that I see at Man City.
Yeah, well, let's bring in our CBS Sports betting analyst to see what he thinks about all this. John Buckets, Ira.
I heard about your bets, Buckets. I heard about these bets.
Why did you bet against the U.S.?
What were you thinking?
Buckets made a bet with who? Jimmy and Charlie that Bosnia would beat the
Tony.
Jimmy
and Tony.
Jimmy and Tony. What led you to making that bet?
Put the shovel down.
What shovel? No, listen. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I simply stated that from a betting perspective, I don't think that Bosnia should have been 8-1 underdogs. I said they were good enough to keep this competitive. And thank you, Bosnia, for making me look like an idiot in front of my friends, okay? Not really thrilled about that one, but that's okay. I've learned my lesson, and I'm here to share some bets about this USA team with you all, if you'll have me.
Well, now you have to get a tattoo, Buckets.
Right?
Where
That's
are you
what
going
you
to
put
put
on
on
the line.
I did put a tattoo on the line, and I'm glad that Jimmy and Tony aren't on the show today, so at least I don't have to I got another 24 hours before I got to deal with them. That feels pretty good. But I will get the tattoo because I'm a man of my word, but I also have to get through two bets here on this USA versus Belgium game, and I'm going at this at a really weird angle because there's not a lot of value betting USA straight up, even though I do believe they are the better side. I agree with all of you that I would much rather see USA play Belgium than I would Senegal. I think Senegal would have played us much more aggressively and better than Belgium would have because Belgium's inconsistent. This is a team loaded with incredible world-class talent that won't play like world-class footballers, and it makes it impossible to trust this side. So rather than do anything, easy, saying USA to win, I'm going to have some fun here. Two bets, both big plus money. The first one is for USA to qualify in extra time. This has to end in a draw at 90 minutes, and then USA win in one of those 15-minute periods after that. You're getting that at plus 1,200. So 12-1 odds for USA to win in extra time. And I'm also going to sprinkle USA to win in penalties at 11-1 plus 1,100. I do believe USA go through. I just don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I think Belgium have shown that even when they're not playing well, they can be frustrating, and they are never fully out of the match. So I'm just having a little bit of fun here, a little bit of coffee money on some big outcomes. But I do believe, if you're watching, Jimmy, that USA will advance, and they are the better of these two sides.
A huge talking point here is the red card for Flo Balogun. So I want you guys in the YouTube chat to let us know what you thought, because I definitely don't think it was a red. But first, let's hear what head coach Mauricio Pochettino had to say about this after the game. What are you thinking? In the moment, did you see it as a red card? Did your thoughts change afterwards? What were you thinking?
Well, in the moment, I'm not sure anyone at all, other than the Bosnian player, knew what happened, right? The referee didn't give anything. There was no foul called, no yellow card. And no, I thought it was much like Mauricio said, it was innocuous. It was incidental. There was no attempt to foul the other player. He kind of came from Balogun's blind side. And the thing that frustrates me about our sport that I love so much is some of the things that are incorporated in terms of refereeing decisions, and it changes not only the game, right? And the U.S. had to suffer for 30-plus minutes down a man, which they did really well, and actually I think in essence brought the team closer together, which was a positive in terms of the adversity. But now we lose our leading goal scorer for the game against Belgium to get to the quarterfinal. So I think it's an incredibly harsh call, dare I say incorrect call. I don't think VAR should have ever intervened. And I also don't like the rule where, and I heard Christina Uncle talking about this a little bit, once VAR intervenes and calls him to the monitor, it's almost like he has no choice at that point to make a decision of his own. It's like, well, if I was called and I see that the stomp, quote unquote stomp happened and the ankle turned, then I must give the red card. So it's almost like the most important referee in the building is the VAR that's not even on the field. So I don't love that. And obviously now we have to kind of next man up battle through it.
This was absolutely not a red card, hands down. Anyone watching it in real time agreed with that. The referee on the pitch, the players on the pitch, maybe perhaps the player that was got injured in it, but all the fans watching for Bosnia and for the United States, no one thought this was a red card initially until it went to VAR, until VAR watched this in slow motion, because when you're initially watching it, there is no malice, there's no force to it. You can see the way Flo Balogun is facing the ball entirely. The defender is to his back. He's not looking at the defender, watching where his feet are landing, and they both jump up. It's a very even football play that we see all the time. And he got unlucky that he landed on the guy's ankle. And then when VAR slows it down and they go frame by frame, that's when you see his studs landed on the ankle. And yeah, when you look at that freeze frame picture, sure, that's a foul, but that was not the intent of the play. And I know intent is not all of it, but in terms of the laws of the play, it's speed, force, and malice. There was none of that in the foul. The only thing that it did was cause harm potentially to the defender.
So you brought up the stills, you brought up the slow-mo, and one can argue that VAR was actually misused here. So here are the IFAB laws of the game. It says, in general, slow motion replays should only be used for facts like position of offense, player, point of contact for physical offenses, and handball, ball out of play, including goal or no goal. Normally, speed should be used for the intensity of an offense. So one really can't argue that it was misused here, because especially when you see the angle, like you could maybe see it looked like Flo kind of dragged his leg. Obviously not, it didn't look like it was on purpose. It didn't look like it was an intent. But based off the angle, it actually looks like maybe he didn't. So it was the fact that it was just stepping on the foot and not higher up that we can say that VAR was misused here. JayDee.
I'm going to take a deep breath before I say what I really want to say.
You're going to say it's a red? You think it was a red?
No, the complete opposite. And I don't think we actually need the stills anymore, because the stills is just going to regurgitate everything that both my teammates have said, both Benny and Lisa. But I really think, and I recognise now, especially during this World Cup, how much we have a lot of weight, a lot of recognition in terms of by sitting in this set and how privileged we are, because a lot of people listen to us. So I really hope the officials of the game listen to what we're about to say, because you're in a really dangerous space right now with football. And I'm noticing it over the last 18 months. And this is something that we all love, right? This is why we sit here and we talk about it. But you're in a real dangerous space of changing the game completely and kind of removing and taking a core aspect out of football, which is the physicality aspect. Now, we are now watching decisions that are going against the actual core of what football is about. It's about battles. It's about individual matchups. It's about physicality. It's about utilising your body. It's about being smart in the play. There is nobody, I believe, that has ever played the game, doesn't matter if you're amateur to the highest level, that believes that that's a red card. But what we're doing now is we're picking and choosing as to what we want to interpret as rules, or what we want to interpret as players' intentions, and what we want to interpret as fouls. And now we're getting into a really dangerous precedent where you can't anticipate and tell players how they're feeling. Anybody that's watching that will tell you, forget the character of Flo, as someone who knows Flo. Forget the character of someone who's not malicious. Anybody that's watching that can tell you that's football in play. He's trying to utilise his body to utilise the space so he can work the defender and move the defender out of position. The defender actually puts his position in terms of his foot in the same space that they're battling for. And unfortunately, there's a clash. Whoever gets there first is a clash. That is not a red card in any which way. Doesn't matter if I'm playing with under sixes to right now to a vets league. And for me, the frustration I'm seeing is we're seeing reactionary decisions because people are looking at, oh, you know what, there's a clash between two players and all of a sudden it's in what we classify as a dangerous area, and that means we need to react. No, sometimes you need to breathe and live this game. And if VAR officials or whoever's making those decisions from thousands of miles away from an office can't understand what a game is supposed to be about and what the actual levels of physicality is supposed to be incorporated within the game, then they shouldn't be making decisions. Stay out of the game if you don't know what you're doing. And there was a lot of decisions being made that clearly show me you don't know what you're doing.
And look, JayDee, I thought I think that's perfect. Right? And I just wanted to add one point to what you just said. You're adding the element of randomness to a game of football, right? Because that was random. The fact that their 2 feet collided and his fell on top of the ankle and whatever, it had no intent. It was innocuous. It was by accident. He didn't even know he was there in that moment. It's random. And so I think that you're adding an element to the game that shouldn't be in there, and you're making decisions that affect the outcome of the game and a tournament. So I thought that was really well put. And the one thing that I don't think you're going to get, referees typically aren't professional soccer players.
That's true.
They don't understand certain battles and certain ways that people, collide, body, fall, injure, foul, whatever. And they see things that from here, I'm seeing as something completely innocuous. They don't see that the same way.
Absolutely, Benny. Absolutely. But that's not necessarily the issue in this instance. It was a misuse of VAR because VAR should never, as Christina Uncle said, our rules analyst here at CBS Sports, VAR never should have recommended this because VAR, as Claudia read in our rules, is to see the point of contact, to see if the ball is over the line. And then the normalcy of the speed of play is what should be played in order to determine if it's a foul. And that's not the case because when they showed the center referee the still image, it was of the foot on top of the other foot. That's not what it was for. We knew contact was being made. It was everything else. You had to take into account the big picture. VAR never should have recommended this.
And Lisa, the problem I have with it is we're now getting people that aren't involved in the emotion of the game, that are sitting there watching it from an office, manipulating as to what the officials are seeing.
Watching it on slow-mo.
And putting it in a slow-mo manner. Because I tell you now, if we slow-moed the whole game, do you know how much you would grimace about the turns, the way your knees turn, your ankles turn, the physicality, how many elbows I've had in my mouth, how many times we've clashed heads, all the rest of it?
There's a really big, I think, effect to that as well. And what we saw yesterday, there was one player on the entire field, or one person in the entire field that knew what happened on that play, and that was the Bosnian guy that went on the floor. And now he's utilizing that because he continued playing. So he didn't get injured to the point that he had to come out of the game. He continued playing. So he, in my opinion, was to some extent play acting because he knew he got stomped on. Now maybe VAR takes a look, and what happened ended up happening. So you're allowing players to now want to create that scenario because VAR might intervene.
And this is why I said we're now in a really dangerous position because now what you're doing is when I watched, you know what it reminds me of? And I'm a little bit older, so I remember when diving first started coming into it and people were play acting to try and manipulate situations. We're now getting into a situation where you're now starting to impact whole tournaments because if the USA aren't successful in the next round and we look at it, because they are more than capable of beating Belgium, and we look at it as a shortcomings in the final third, no matter what we say, the USA's determination in this tournament, the happiness, the success, all the things that we came into this whole segment and TV show on talking about, all that joy you saw from all those fans is now being impacted by somebody that's sitting in an office and has made an incorrect decision.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.